Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Reverend Sherri's Metaphysical Bible Hangout. This is a free weekly Bible study that I do every Thursday night. It is my joy to teach the Bible. It's just how much fun. I don't know if I could think of more fun to have. And we've been working on a series called Working with the Law. And it is all about spiritual law. And in fact, I took this book, I took a part-time job because I'm retiring some debt. And I took this book to work with me as I was, using that time to prep and, doing that. And the person said, are you studying to be a paralegal? And I was like, no, not quite. This is a book on spiritual law. I'm working on this, working on mastering this law. So we do this every Thursday night. We've been in the middle of this series. This is the last of the lessons. We got 2 more. We'll go until September 10th with this series. But I am delighted. If you are in the chat room and you want to join the live conversation, meaning you want to be one of the speakers down on the film strip, if you just raise your hand, I'll be able to see it, and I'll invite you in as a speaker. So everyone is welcome in. Definitely the more the merrier. And as always, if you have questions, please feel free to ask those questions. And I try to do a pretty good job of noticing that there's questions, but sometimes I get a little bit backed up, and I may have gone past something and have to back up. So tonight we are talking about the law of sacrifice, and I am going to Okay. There we go. So the law of sacrifice is our topic. And I focus this series, everything that we're studying is something that applies to your life personally. But I'm focusing this series because there are a number of people in this online spiritual community who are business owners, and we're all interested in standing out from the competition, eliminating the mental blocks that hold us back, and attracting and retaining the right clients. And so we really want to get to the place where we turn our part-time business income into full-time income. And this series focuses on that. But even if you're already earning a full-time income from your business and you want to take it to the next level, the things that we have been talking about over these last several weeks together really will help you to do that. So our outline for tonight, today is actually the 27th. Somehow I thought it was the 26th. Don't ask me where I got that from. I got a couple of announcements, and then we'll get to opening prayer. And then we'll talk about what is the law, and we'll look at some real-world examples of applying the law of sacrifice. Then we'll look at what is the law of sacrifice, the key to it, and what price will you pay. And then we'll look at how to work the law of sacrifice. And really, working the law of sacrifice is cooperating with the law of sacrifice to build your business. And then, of course, assuming, I'm laughing because I've been going over these last few weeks, but assuming that I get it all in, at 8:50 we'll have Q&A. You can follow along on the blog. I always do a companion piece to match what we are studying on Thursday nights. And so today I wrote about some of the things that we're going to talk about tonight in regards to the law of sacrifice. And you go right over to revsherri.com and you can read that companion piece. New teleseminar. So the teleseminar is starting really in September. So the information is going to start flowing out in September 1st, but the class itself will start a little bit into the month. But you want to join my newsletter to stay in the loop. You can go right over to revsherri.com and sign up, and you'll have information on this course. Our platform is Metaphysical Bible. For the Metaphysical Bible Hangout is Webinar Jam. So it used to be that I would send out an invitation ahead of time via Google+, but I don't do that now. You actually have to be a part of my newsletter in order to be in the loop and get the link to join us each week. So make sure you are on that newsletter at revsherri.com, and that newsletter goes out every Thursday. When I'm good, it goes out at 9:30 a.m. and other times it goes out, but it always goes out on Thursday. The scriptures for this 11-part series, there are 2. Proverbs 23:7, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. And Romans 13:10, love does no wrong to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the law. I think this is so key because tonight what we're going to be talking about is how to love in the form of sacrifice. how to love in the form of sacrifice. It is love that fulfills the law. Everything that we've been looking at has been explaining how you show up in love for your business, but also by extension, everything else in your life. Okay, opening prayer. Let's just take a moment to relax and just rest in the awareness that God is all there is. There is only one power, there is only one presence, and that power and presence is God, the good, omnipotent, the everywhere, evenly present spirit of absolute good. Tonight we come together to open our hearts and our minds for a deeper understanding of the teachings of the Master. We want to know you better, Father. We want to understand your teachings so much more deeply in our hearts. And we ask that you just work with each one of us as we move through this hour together to grow, to develop, to stretch, to become more of who we were already designed to be. Thank you, Father, for extraordinary results in all of our lives. And thank you for an extraordinary evening together. I release this prayer in the name and through the power that is in the name of Jesus. It is so, and so it is. And amen. Okay, so this is my handy dandy card. I talk about this every week. It's the same card, God as Law. And I do this because repetition, there is this concept in New Thought called autosuggestion. And what autosuggestion is, well, let me back up. So the way that the mind works is that you continually suggest an idea to the mind. And if you are persistent and consistent in the suggestion of an idea to your mind, eventually your mind will latch on to that idea. One of the reasons that I love the movie Inception so much, we screened it as one of our metaphysical movie night movies. One of the reasons that I love that movie so much is because Christopher Nolan and his team developed a narrative way to explain how it is that the mind grasps an idea. And I always think about myself as a filmmaker, that had I told that story, it would have been a documentary. It would have been much more like What the Bleep Do We Know, or maybe The Secret, possibly, you know. But I don't know that I had ever conceptualized how to explain what it is that we teach in a narrative form. And I love the story because it works on so many levels. If you know nothing about how the mind works, it's full of action. If you're somebody who's into dreams, it's got all kinds of stuff about dreams. If you are someone who really is interested in how the mind works, which I'm one of those people, it really lays out a pictorial narrative that you can easily, well, relatively easily, follow to understand how the mind grasps an idea. And essentially what happens is that they continue to go deeper and deeper, Leonardo DiCaprio's team, they continue to go deeper and deeper into the mind of their mark to plant an idea. And that idea is to, they want to break up this monopoly so that, it has some, it's got to tell a story. But they're trying to get this idea to land in the mind of this man. And as they go deeper in the mind, all the things that are opposed to the idea take up arms against it. And so it is with us, that when you suggest an idea to the mind, you begin to work towards wealth. That all of the things in your experience that don't agree with wealth take up arms against that idea. And so it takes time before essentially you overcome those forces, and you can overcome those forces. Most people give up before the idea has landed. And so what repetition does is that it could just continually introduces the idea to the mind, and eventually the mind latches onto it. And so what feels like an aha moment, like you just got it in the moment, is really all of the foundation that you've been building up, suggesting it each time. And so that's one of the reasons that I keep coming back to the same card of God as law, because it is simply a term. We use it in New Thought to be synonymous with the term God. And it is a way to explain how we experience God in the world. So how do I experience God as the force that tethers me to the planet? We call that the law of gravity. How do I experience God as the force that enables me to get on a plane and fly through the air? We call that the law of aerodynamics. And so the law is, it has to do with how you experience God. And when you cooperate with the law, it is a form of love. And that's why the prophet Paul, the Apostle Paul says, love does no harm to a neighbor. Love is the fulfilling of the law. That when you cooperate with spiritual law, essentially what you are doing is showing up in love. And we have a lot of erroneous ideas about what it means to show up in love, and we think of love only as an emotion, but love has a lot of power behind it, and it is the most potent power in the universe. Guns mean nothing against the power of love. Gandhi proved that. Hatred means nothing against the power of love. Martin Luther King proved that. And so the question becomes, what will you prove by showing up in love? But there's a way that you show up. It's not just what you say with your mouth, it's also what you do. So a couple of real world examples. I got to shout out this girl because, oh, Miss Serena Williams, I thought I had highlighted her before because I'm such a fan. Oh my God, I'm such a fan of the work that she does. She dominates the tennis courts, and she proves that you can produce extraordinary results if you're willing to pay the price that excellence demands. And that is what the law of sacrifice is about. Are you willing to pay the price that excellence demands? And she is just an exemplar of what it is to really just give your very, very, very best. What it is to really just show up every day in excellence. And to continue to push through. She's had different illnesses, different setbacks, and here she is at 33. She may be 34 now, but at 33, dominating the game of tennis, and a game that is not something that you have historically seen African Americans in. She overcomes enormous racism and resistance from the world, who people resist change. So the idea that this sport could be something that is not exclusive to one community of people is threatening to some people. And she continues to show up, and what speaks to me about in terms of her discipline is, I mean, obviously the discipline for the game, that is bar none, but the way that she graciously responds to the ignorance that comes her way in the form of racist comments. And who knows what she says when the cameras are not showing. But the truth is that what comes out of your mouth, we learned last week from Luke 6:45, that out of your mouth comes what is in your heart. And so much has been made about her body and the shape of her body, and really just an attack on her body. And there's a gracious way that she has really handled that. So much has been made about the fact that Maria, I'm going to mess up her last name, Sharapova, and I'm not doing that on purpose, but who has gone up against her 20 times and lost 18 of those 20 times. She has actually paid more in terms of endorsements. And so Serena has been, questioned about that. And I wish I could easily find that income disparity. All right, I'm going to see if I can find it. But her response was so just wonderful. It was like, we're focusing on the wrong things. And if I'm not the one that was meant to earn more, it's like, okay. Here it is. It was in the Huffington Post. Of course, my computer is moving. She says if they want, speaking, so what it says is that Serena Williams has finally weighed in on the huge disparity between her and tennis player Maria Sharapova's off-court earnings. While Williams dominates Sharapova athletically, leading in their head-to-head matchups 18-2, Sharapova is still the highest-paid female athlete, mostly thanks to endorsements. In an interview with the New York Times published August 25th, Williams was asked how she feels about the preference many endorsement partners have for the tall, slim, and blonde Sharapova. Her response was poised and perfect. If they want to market someone who is white and blonde, that's their choice. I have a lot of partners who are very happy to work with me. I can't sit here and say I should be higher on the list because I have won more. I'm happy for her because she worked hard too. There is enough at the table for everyone. We have to be thankful, and we also have to be positive about it so the next black person can be number one on that list. And I appreciated that, because it's like, we pay attention to some of the dumbest stuff. This is, and quite honestly, it's never about the money you make. It's always about the money you keep. So there are many people who are, making more money but don't have a money consciousness, and so they are effectively losing what could potentially be theirs. You get what I'm saying? It's not about the money you make, it's about the money that you keep. And getting caught up in, well, this person makes more and it's a symbol of racism. Yes, it does grow out of a racist structure and value on who is more important and who is more valuable. But at the end of the day, there is enough at the table for everybody. And so we have to be mindful of how we handle our anger. And I know that there are probably some militant folk in the audience who are going to really be upset with me, and that's okay. Y'all can be upset with me. But I think that we've got to start to think critically about some of this stuff and really decide what really matters at the end of the day. Another example, and I had so many examples to choose from, but this one I love because I'm just in love with kids' movies. And Pixar Animation Studios, they have created an unprecedented record of excellent animated films. They continually create material that reaches children and adults. If you watch any of their films, Up, The Incredibles, Toy Story, anyone in that trilogy, A Bug's Life, any of those stories, you will find Monsters, Inc., Cars, Planes. If you watch any of their films, you will find this thread that honors, that is consistently just excellent filmmaking and excellent storytelling. And it'd be interesting to really look at what they do on a regular basis and how they break their stories down, because they really have been, I don't know how many movies are out now, but there was a point at which I was like, wow, they're like 10 for 10. They've made more movies than that. But every time they put out a film, you can trust the quality of the film. And whenever you see sustained excellence, someone in that company, but generally the company itself, is working the law of sacrifice. One-hit wonders is not working the law of sacrifice. But when you see that sustained excellence over time, where the people continually come back, there's someone who gets it as far as the law of sacrifice is concerned. And they may not call it the law of sacrifice, but it absolutely is working this spiritual law. So what is the law of sacrifice? The key to the law of sacrifice is found in the verse Matthew 7:14. Straight is the gate, and narrow is the way, which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Straight is the gate, and narrow is the way, which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Bottom line, something always has to be sacrificed for something else. I don't remember what the magazine is right now. Otherwise, I'd be willing to mention it. But I was coming through the grocery store line, and this type of article pops up all the time. Can you have it all? Or how is it that, and you put fill in the blank, so and so has it all? Or can fill in the blank of so and so pop star? Can this person have it all? And it's like we are obsessed with this idea of having it all. And so in the blog post today, I said, let me just settle this once and for all. There is no such thing as having it all. Everything has a cost. And so when you choose in one direction, you are essentially choosing against another direction. So there is no such thing as having it all. The law of sacrifice is that you make a choice. And here's the thing, making the choice is inevitable. It is, you cannot get around it. There is no such thing as not making a choice. Even sitting on the sidelines and not dealing with whatever is in front of you is making a choice. Every moment of every day we are choosing, choosing, choosing. Growing up spiritually, meaning developing a level of spiritual maturity, means consciously making choices in the direction of what you truly want. A lot of times we don't make choices for what we truly want because we're trying to avoid some perceived pain. And so we don't want the pain of, I'll use my own example, it would really be great. It would be awesome. Awesome. And I'm working on it, but it would be awesome if I would be consistent and write 4 hours every day. If I got up and I was consistent and wrote 4 hours every day, I could probably finish out all of the blog posts that I need through the end of the year. Do you know how much time that would free up? So, but stuff comes up. It's very easy not to put in those 4 hours. It's very easy to like him and haw. Oh, should I go this way with the article? Should I go that way with the article? It is that. So there's a point at which you have to come where you say, you know what? I choose the sacrifice. I choose the sacrifice of putting in this consistent time over time because I want predictable results. And so many of us work week to week, or really work on deadlines past, because we're not willing to put in the discipline to work ahead of schedule. And so everything has a price. And so the choice to not work ahead of schedule is the choice to be, well, at least for me, emotionally in knots about making a deadline. Everything has a price. There is no, and every moment of every day you are choosing. There is no moment of any day that you are at some point not choosing. Every moment is a choice. And so what you want to start to do is to become conscious about the choices that you are making and be thoughtful about the choices that you are making, because you're making choices. Oh, I use this because he really symbolizes for me the, as far as someone who is demonstrating a level of excellence and just doing good work in the world, is Tony Robbins. Your gifts merely indicate the currency you've been given to pay the universe with. So I need to say that. Your gifts indicate, that's all they are, they're an indicator of the currency that you've been given to pay the universe with. What do I mean? Tony Robbins is a good speaker, right? I think everyone, whether you like him or not, can agree that he's a good speaker and that he is good at what he does. Even if he's not, say, your cup of tea, he's still a good speaker, right? But being a good speaker, there are lots of people who are good speakers. It is when you begin to invest the time, so you sacrifice something else because you're going to invest the time to develop where your gifts are. Your gifts are the currency that you've been given with which to pay the universe for the lifestyle that you were meant to lead. I don't know how to say that any differently. If you guys want to ask a question and help me clarify that, and maybe there's something I can bring out a little differently. But your gifts indicate the currency that you have in order to pay the universe for the lifestyle that you were born to lead. If you don't develop the gift, essentially what you were saying is, I'm not willing to pay the money or pay the cost to be who I was meant to be. There are lots of people, any one of us, especially just being in Hollywood, any one of us can throw a rock and find someone who can sing as good as or better than Beyonce or Whitney Houston or whomever. Any one of us. We got folk in our church that can sing better than them, sing them under the table. But that's just the indicator of where you're meant to put your investment. Ray says, I need a clarification of your statement about our gifts. You have been given a gift, Ray, because I happen to know you. You have been given a gift of graphic design, an eye for graphic design. That's the currency that you've been given to pay the universe for the lifestyle that you were meant to lead. If you don't develop and continue to hone and practice the skill of graphic design over and over and over again, essentially what you're saying is, I'm not willing to pay the price in order to be who I was designed to be. You know, I would run into a lot of writers, as being a producer, it would frustrate the mess out of me. I would run into a lot of writers who would say, well, you know what, I don't want to write unless I'm being paid to write. Of course you don't want to not be paid to write. But guess what? You've got to put in the time to become that writer who gets paid. And the only way to do that is to write. That's the only way to do it. There's no, if writing is your gift and you won't put in the time, essentially what you're saying is this, because this is your currency. This is your currency that you've been given to play ball in the universe. And essentially what you're saying is that I'm not going to invest my currency. You don't get to be Beyonce overnight. You don't get to be Whitney Houston overnight, or Celine Dion overnight, or who's that kid I like now, Sam Smith overnight. You just don't. What you do get to do is recognize, hey, I sing, and people like the way I sound when I sing, and it does something to them, and I sound good in church, and folks like it, and that's where you're meant to develop. So, but the law of sacrifice is that everything has a price. And so all of us know somebody who can, again, sing. And I think Beyonce is wonderful. She's from Houston, so she's a homegirl. Love that, right? But I know that there are, and any one of us, we could pool names together and come up with 10 folk that can out-sing her and sing her under the table. But are they willing to make the investment that she has made to develop her craft and to figure out what is special about herself? And that's what the law of sacrifice is about. It is about being willing to pay that price. Alita says, is that like to much is given, much is required? But here's the thing. To whom much is given, we've all been given much. All of us have been given, we have this idea that like some people have been given more than others, and no, they haven't. No, they have not. That's a human judgment. All of us have been given a talent or talents, which is essentially our currency that we get to invest and grow and play ball in the universe. And if we won't do it, nobody can do it for us. Marvin says, is it going the extra mile? You know, Marvin, I think it's going the extra mile plus some miles. I think that it is your chosen area of success or endeavor or whatever has secrets. When you work at it, you compel the universe to reveal to you the secrets about your stuff. Whatever your thing is, if you're a life coach, if you are a chef, if you are a costume designer, if you, whatever it is that you are, your area of work, your craft has secrets. And what you want to do is unlock the secrets. One of the greatest stories I ever heard Reverend Mary tell, and I've heard about this guy all my life growing up because it, you know, Black History Month, and they always bring him up, George Washington Carver. George Washington Carver was a mystic. And he prayed to God to understand the secrets of the universe. And God said, look, I'm going to give you the peanut. Work on the peanut. And he unlocked the mystery of the peanut. Before he started doing his work on the peanut, there was one use for the peanut. He unlocked 300 products, distinct products that the peanut could be used for. That story has stayed with me because it is about unlocking the secrets of what it is that you do. And we get so distracted by, oh, I don't have enough money to pay my bills, oh, they're not paying me enough, or, oh, my child is acting up, or whatever it is. And it's like you've got to be able to invest some time, whether it's an hour a day, 30 minutes a day, whatever that is, but you've got to invest some time to work on your area, whatever that is. Andrea says, my God-given gifts are how I am meant to express the goodness of God, and it is done to the glory of God. Absolutely. Ray says, okay, thanks, I get you. She said, I meant to say I express my gifts to the glory of God. Yep, I got it. I got it. I hope that clears it up. Gina says, my gifts have secrets, and I have been willing to unlock the secrets through, and I have to be willing to unlock the secrets through my work. Absolutely. Malcolm Gladwell, a good book to read is Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. I just checked it out of the library. And with this book, what Malcolm Gladwell talks about is the 10,000 hour rule. And so he studied what were consistent things against high levels of success across a number of different spectrums. And one of the things that he came up with was that these people invest at a minimum of 10,000 hours in doing it right. Now, 10,000 hours doing it wrong does not yield good results. 10,000 hours practicing your craft the right way. That every time you continue to show up, but show up and look at what you're doing. What am I doing right? Okay, well, what worked about that? Okay, well, what could I get better? I can't tell this story because I know this person and he might see this video, but I know someone who is a comedian. And this person is a very talented comedian. And his friend who works with him described him as the Michael Jordan, talent-wise, Michael Jordan of comedians. But what he didn't have was that work ethic where he would study the tapes to see what was working, what was not working, where was he going right, where was he not going right, where were the missteps, where was he talent of a Michael Jordan, but he doesn't have the work ethic of a Michael Jordan. Your talents are your currency. But if you won't do anything with them, and if you won't hone them and figure out what's working, what's not working, what could be better, and if you won't study yourself and study your results, and this is what the law of sacrifice is about. It's about putting in that time to study what is working about what you're doing. And so this is why the verse says, straight is the gate, and narrow is the way which leads unto life, and few there be that find it. The reason there are few that find it is because folks give up. They're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm tired, I'm sleepy, I want some rest, or oh, I got to do this. This is, and so everything is more urgent than you figuring out how to show up in excellence. Gina says, in order for me to give my gifts to the world, I have to be willing to put in the time to bring it forth. That's it. That's it. You have to be willing to put in that time. There's no, there's no substitute for it, right? There's no getting around it. And before now, we've been taught this idea of straight as the gate, as well, don't wear makeup. What that got to do with the price of tea in China? Or women don't wear dresses above your knee. Huh? It's like you missed the boat entirely. No wonder you can't get any success. And you live a life of poverty and then say that the poverty is God ordained. Because that don't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. Stop saying that. It is painstaking, scientific, technical discipline that produces the results. What I can tell you from the people that I have observed, meaning folks that I know, that I've seen, is that they are willing to put in that time to figure out, are they getting results and what is getting them results? Because sometimes people get results, but they don't know what's getting them results, and so they're unwilling to dig because they don't know when the answer is going to reveal itself. So it's like, I don't feel like doing, this test to figure out, okay, what's working, what's not working. Chaz Dean is someone that I know, and he created the Win Hair and Body Care. And you have to listen to him explain how he came up with this product. It's quite remarkable. It's an incredible story. But he talks about testing things, and then testing things on his own hair. And he would basically do one side of his hair, right, and see how that came out with the mixture, and then he would do another side with a different mixture. And he did this like looking at like those finer points, and he talks about this over a number of years as he basically worked with a chemist to figure out how to create a cleansing conditioner that cleanses the hair without stripping the hair the way that shampoo strips the hair. I probably should have given a context. Chaz created a product called Win Hair and Body Care. It is someone told me it does over $1 billion a year around the planet, which is remarkable. He was a member of Upchurch, trained by Reverend Della, and he credits what he learned from Reverend Della with helping him to build a company that he's built today, learning these spiritual principles that I'm teaching you. And what he did with what he knew as a stylist was that that shampoo strips the hair. It's why we sell conditioner and shampoo together, because you clean the hair, but there are surfactants that are in the shampoo that essentially strip the hair of its nutrients. And so then what you use the conditioner for is to restore those nutrients. And that's why when you use shampoo, your hair, it's clean, but it has that kind of crispy, crunchy kind of feel to it. The conditioner to add back the things that soften the hair, to add those nutrients back. And that's why they're sold like that together. What Chaz pioneered was a conditioner that cleans as good as a shampoo but doesn't strip the hair. And if you can go Google him and learn about his stuff. But he is a remarkable example of studying your craft. It's painstaking. It is, and he talks about how he would practice with different versions of his product and continue to figure out what was working and what wasn't working. And today his product does the work. $1 billion around each year in product. Huge. Massive. But you can have those same extraordinary results in your own life. There's nothing that's being kept from you. But you keep it from yourself because you're not willing to study your own results. So what is the law of sacrifice? It's all about what price you will pay, right? Everything in life has its own price and is ever up for sale. And we have to purchase it at the price it demands. Everything has a price. There is not one thing that has a price, that does not have a price. Sleeping when you could be working has a price. Working when you could be sleeping, everything has a price. And it is ever up for sale. And so every day, all day, we are literally moving through the universe buying our future. Magical results come not by chance or accident, but from discipline. Discipline that is consciously chosen, ardently desired, and patiently persisted. I love that. Magical results come not by chance or accident, but from discipline. That is, I cannot, I wish I knew a way to beat that with a stick. Because that you see. When you see, in fact, I watched a clip today of, I guess it must have been a imitation show of a guy dressed like Beyonce and doing a medley of her songs. And when you look at it in the beginning, this is something I saw on Facebook. When you look at it in the beginning, it looked like Beyonce. The camera was far enough back, and the hair was styled, and he had on a leotard, and so it looked like Beyonce, right? And the moves were good in the beginning. And I think this routine that I watched was probably, let's say, 7 minutes long. 3 minutes into all of that high energy, moving and jumping and splitting, and you could see him begin to tire. And he was still putting forth a good effort. He was still putting forth a good effort, but you could see that the movements were not as pronounced. that they weren't as crisp. And when you think about the high octane show that a Beyonce does, and it's because the time has been invested. There is no substitute for investing the time. And that what enables her to deliver at the level that she delivers is that discipline that is desired, that is persisted in, that is chosen. And it can't be something that's imposed on you, because we've seen when people are imposed, it must be something that you choose from within yourself. So I want to talk about how to work the law of sacrifice, because it's really about cooperating with the law of sacrifice. We already said that there is no such thing as not making a choice. You're always making a choice. Always, always, always. And I want you to challenge yourself to choose sacrifice willingly. This is so important. See, the beginning of wisdom is not imposed by discipline, but the beginning of wisdom is first the desire for discipline, the love of it, the voluntary choice of it. Discipline is the high road that leads to every worth living. Discipline is the high road that leads to everything that makes life worth living. It's the choosing willingly. We all have seen and heard the stories of children who were forced to play piano. And when it wasn't their choice, right, then they rebel, they fight against it, and they refuse to develop themselves. So it has to be that you make. It has to be an inner choice that you reach for within yourself. And you want to choose it willingly, because that's the only way that it will ever work. If you are doing the discipline because somebody said it was a good idea, or because your mama made you, or whatever, you see people rebel against that. You see that in workplaces. One of the jobs that I worked before I was doing ministry was I worked in a telefundraising firm. And the discipline that was imposed on us as callers is that we had to get there. The shift, let's say, was from 9 to 1. So we had to be there by 9, and if you were later than 5 minutes, you basically couldn't sit for the shift, so you couldn't clock in and earn any money. And then we had a break, and the break was at the same time, but there was this ordered thing. So now that was a good thing because it produced results for that company, but you could see the people who rebelled against it and really just didn't survive in the company. That just showing up and being on time, I'd even recommended someone for training, and they were late for the training, and it was like, you know what, you can't even have the job, because the job is you must show up at this time. So it has to be a discipline that you accept. That's so critical. It must be something that you choose within yourself. Number 2, count the cost. So sacrifice is an inescapable necessity. It is a definite law that we have to obey. And the truth is that we are sacrificing every day of our lives, whether we want to or not, whether we know it or not. And no matter what we want of life, we have to give up something in order to get it. No matter what we want in life, we have to give up something in order to get it. And so you want to consider what it is that you want. What kind of lifestyle are you asking for? What are you calling into your experience? Because whatever you're calling into your experience has a price. But the other thing is to recognize that what you're doing right now is buying you the life that you have. And is it the life that you want? And this is only you can answer that question. What you are doing right now is buying you the life that you have. And so if not showing up in excellence every day is costing you, is that a cost you're interested in continuing to pay? Or are you willing to do something different? Are you willing to show up in a different way in order to buy a different experience for life? Life will pay you. I don't know if this poem is in here. So I bargained with life. Oh, the one at the end of this chapter is Invictus, which is a good one. I bargained. There it is. I bargained with life for a penny. This is I love this poem. This is it's attributed to Jessie B. Rittenhouse, and it says, I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I begged at evening when I counted my scanty store. For life is just an employer. He gives what you ask, but once you have set the wages, why, you must bear the task. I worked for a menial's hire, only to learn dismayed that any wage I had asked of life, life would have paid. Everything is up for sale. Everything is up for sale. The life you want is up for sale. Are you willing to pay the price in order to have it? That's the question that we're all faced with. We love the perks of stardom that we see. You know, well, some of us do. We love the lavishness, but that lavishness has a price. And are you willing to pay that price? You can have it. It's up for sale. And it's up for sale with the talents you've got. But are you willing to dig in and figure out what you're doing right and what you're not doing right in order to produce those results? Andrea says, I meant to say I express my gifts to the glory of God. So with every choice I make, I am paying a price. Yes, every chip I eat is costing me extra 5 minutes of exercise. Yes, yes. And that metaphor stretches across everything in terms of how you handle your money, how you handle your relationships, choosing not to call your friends, choosing not to invest in those relationships, choosing not to nurture your friendships. That has a cost. It has a cost. Not calling people back has a cost. I mean, everything is, you know, he writes something, and I think it's wonderful. He says, oh, it's on page 160. It says that you cannot have a lovely home, a devoted family, and enjoy loose living. If you will not sacrifice or give up the loose living for the lovely home, you will be forced to sacrifice a lovely home and loved ones for loose living. You cannot enjoy the satisfactions and pleasures of a true friendship and indulge in a bad temper. If you will not sacrifice your temper for friendships, you will sacrifice your friendships for a bad temper. One cannot have a sterling character that friends will respect and trust and resort to crooked practices. If he will not give up his crooked ways to sacrifice his trustworthiness for crookedness. It always has to be paid for something else. Something always has to be paid. There is no free stuff in this universe. You want to rethink freedom. You know, sometimes you will hear people say, you know, I wouldn't want the life of President Obama because, or somebody like that, doesn't have to be President Obama, because that lifestyle is so, you know, I'm looking for something in the book while I'm talking to you. That lifestyle is so restricted, and I wouldn't want to be that restricted. And oh, I wanted to find this. I may not be able to find it fast enough. And so I don't want this restricted lifestyle where everywhere I go, my every move is monitored, and you know, Secret Service has to follow me or whatever. And so we think of those people as living in a prison, right? It's a prison of their own making. Nice prison with some good stuff, but it's a prison nonetheless. And the thing is that we don't often see the prison that we have thought our own way into. Marvin says, so I have to stop keeping my options open, and I have to be willing to put in the time and effort. That's it. That's it. It is. this idea of like, keeping your options open is it's really not no such thing, because you've got to choose. The way you get more options is actually to choose a path. The way you get more options is to begin to invest in a direction. That's what actually gives you options. And so for a time, it appears that you have no options because you're investing in this direction. But if you are working on it and you're practicing correctly, I think that's very key. I think practice for the sake of practice is not practice unless you are doing it right. But when you choose to invest in a particular direction and continue to move in that direction and invest, then you begin to open up those options. But they come on the other side of the investment, not before the investment. No man will ever find the richness of life in any realm by loose and casual wandering. Always he will have to go down a narrow way and through a straight gate called discipline. Oh, goodness, Sherri, I'm looking for this. Okay. He tells the story of this man. Here it is. I found it. Good grief. It's on page 1, at the bottom of 160, going up to the top of 161. And I love this story. He says, some people say then that if you want to enjoy the pleasures of life, this means that your freedom is impossible. It means, on the contrary, that you who think this have not found what real freedom is. This reminds me of a drunkard who was giving a stump lecture to the amusement of a few on the subject of freedom. He declared he wanted his freedom and that he had a right to drink all the liquor he wanted and no government could stop him. He was having his freedom, and yet he was so drunk he did not know what he was saying or doing. Freedom is not living an obsessed, undisciplined life. Freedom is in being able to control your life and in making it what you want it to be. That is what true freedom is. We have got to rethink freedom. We've got to rethink what freedom is. We look at people who live a very ordered life and think that they are somehow in a prison and that we are not. And the thing is that we shut down our own options when we do not invest in the talent that we have been given, which is our currency, to pay the universe for the lifestyle that we are called to live. All of us have a lifestyle that we're called to live. My lavish looks different than your lavish. Some people are into simple abundance. They like things very spare. They just want a few things here and there. They don't really want too much stuff. I think that's great. Their talent is the currency that they have been given in order to pay the universe for that type of lifestyle. So your talent, this is your currency. Begin to think of your, whatever it is that you do. You may be someone who's just good with nurturing people, and you're good with taking care of people and making them feel good about themselves. That's a talent. That has value. And it is in figuring out what's working. Andrea says, I was expecting my life to flow easily into my desire because some mystics teach that we are not here to get it, but we are here to let it. What I am experiencing is exactly what you're saying. I have to work hard for it. Amen. Work hard. It's learning to fall in love with the discipline. That's the part about this, and that actually points to my next slide, Andrea. That's what my next slide is about. It is about falling in love with the desiring that discipline. If you wish to become a skilled athlete, an efficient teacher, an expert lawyer, or a beautiful singer, the beginning of such success is first the desire for discipline of your time and thought. And the scripture that says, blessed is the man who endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord, the law, remember every time you see the word Lord in scripture, it's synonymous with law. The law has promised to them that love him, love the law, L-A-W. And when you endure temptation, is that, you know what, I want to eat this chip. I choose not to eat this chip. Blessed is the woman who endures the temptation of Chips Ahoy chocolate chip cookies, Sherri. Blessed is the person who endures the temptation of going to sleep instead of putting in an extra hour of work. So it's learning to desire the discipline, not to when you force it on yourself, it's not a, it's you're fighting against yourself. So we're looking for choosing discipline from a state of peace, not from a state of, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, and so we're so wound up. And I think that that's what the mystics are teaching when they talk about letting it, as opposed to, you know, trying to go out and get it. That when it becomes what you love to do, and the way you develop your love for it is that you get curious about it. You begin to ask questions of it. Well, how could I do this differently? Well, what else is there for me to learn from this? You know, you develop a love for it by becoming curious about it. And so you fall in love with the discipline of whatever your gift is. And finally, choose sanity. Now this is going to sound like a soapbox, so y'all just forgive me. An undisciplined life is an insane life. I am so tired of people. So the idea of you can't have it all, this is where people take it. So you can have a career, but you can't have a healthy relationship. That's BS. That is BS. That you are meant to bring the same discipline. In fact, you cost yourself when you don't discipline yourself emotionally, when you let your feelings fly all over the place. And every time somebody's talking to you or something happens, you're all up in your feelings. That's not discipline. You're meant to take the same discipline that you employ in your business life, in your professional life, and apply it to your personal life. Because what you are creating is a vessel through which the spirit can flow. And when you are all over the place emotionally, you cost yourself and you stunt or you quench the spirit. So an undisciplined life is an insane life. And I'm saying this is very much preaching to myself, because it is going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time. It is eating, you know, balanced meals. It is taking care, being disciplined in how you nurture and take care of yourself. And it is not professional discipline at the expense of personal discipline. It is also in how you treat people. It is not true that just because you have professional success that you cannot have personal success. That is not true. Not having it all means that if I'm choosing success in this arena, then I am basically saying no to participating in this other arena. But the arena has nothing to do with your personal life. It's saying that I'm choosing success in the direction of this area of my profession. I'm going to work on preaching and teaching and writing, right? I'm going to work on serving people. But that is no excuse for not developing yourself personally in terms of how you take care of your friendships and your family and okay, so you see so many people that work on themselves professionally, but they let themselves go personally. You know, I'm not going to do that. I was going to mention this movie that just came out, and the kerfuffle that came up about it because some of the people in the film are violent towards women. And it's like, you don't get off the hook because you developed yourself professionally. You just don't. And the thing is that you know, what you do personally can cost you professionally. You can look at Bill Cosby. That in the things that he did, who knows how many isolated incidents there were. But here he is at the end of his life, and his entire legacy destroyed because of not disciplining himself in the beginning of his life. It's just not worth it. He tells this story and I thought it was so powerful in the chapter. He talks about Judas. And because a lot of times when we talk about sacrifice, we always look at the sacrifice that produces the results that we would want. So we talk about like the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross, or, you know, the sacrifice of you know, the Martin Luther or people like that. But he says think about what Judas paid. Think about the chance that he had, of what chance he had to become, and think of the companionship he once possessed and the place he might have occupied, and then think of what he threw away. Think of what he got for it, And then he says, I say to you, the cross was not a sacrifice to be compared with what Judas paid. For but 30 pieces of silver in utter disgrace, he cast aside the richest opportunity of any man in all history. And then he goes on to say, a youth who had disdained discipline had cast aside restraint and had his fling, wrote as he sat behind prison bars, 1,000 times I have paid in full for those few hours. This young man and his nephew, a few years his junior, had attended a revival meeting in a town not far from me. And on their way home, they argued the question the minister had talked about at the meeting. The argument grew into angry words, and when they reached home, this anger had been fanned to a murderous heat. The younger man went to his room and got a gun and shot at the uncle. The uncle, in turn, wrestled for the gun and turned it upon the youth and killed him. I say this is costly living. We should take this earnestly unto ourselves and realize how the word sacrifice touches every one of us. Everything has a cost, and when you don't develop yourself, when you don't deal with, let's say if you have a temper, when you don't deal with your anger, and so anybody at any time can continue to touch your buttons and send you off. When you don't deal with that, that has a cost. And for not disciplining yourself in terms of your emotions, you open the door for you to destroy your entire fortune. So this is not developing yourself personally at the sacrifice of developing yourself, developing yourself professionally at the sacrifice of developing yourself personally. This is developing yourself, period. You've got to make it worth it to discipline yourself. So you must take that time and do that meditation. There's no real substitute for that. You've got to take that time. That is essential to your well-being. And it's essential because you've got to take that daily time where you get in touch with spirit. And you want it to not be a chore. So it's not doing it in a way where it's like rigorous and it's like, oh, I got to do it, I got to meditate, and all of a sudden it becomes like work to meditate. But it is where you fall in love sacrifice. And so just in review, these are 5 ways to cooperate with the law of sacrifice and build your business. 1 is to choose sacrifice willingly. The beginning of wisdom is first the desire and love of discipline. You want to count the cost. Make sure you are paying for what you want to get. Make sure you are paying for what you want to get. And number 3, rethink freedom. There is no freedom in loose living. Number 4, desire discipline. Fall in love with the work it takes to become your best self. Fall in love with it. Let it become your joy. And number 5, choose sanity. Bring your emotional life under the same discipline you use in your professional life. And so this is my call to action to you. 1, determine 1 to 2 actions that produce the real results in your business. There's something that you're doing. In fact, a book that you should get is The One Thing by Gary Keller. Great, great book. He writes this incredible book. This book is all about sacrifice. It is about figuring out what is that one thing that produces results in my business. And then dialing down on that one thing. What is the one thing that makes the difference, that moves the needle? Because, you know, in your work, in your life, but in your work for sure, there is the one domino that knocks down all the other dominoes, right? That's the one you want to work on. And so he does a great job of explaining that. But you want to find out what is that one thing. And then you want to begin to develop a system around working on that one thing. So you want to build a system around getting it done. You want to work that system for 30 days. So, you know, like I said, for me, it's writing, because my whole world is built around writing, not just writing books, but writing blog posts, writing emails. And so it is taking that and building a system where I write for a consistent time every day. And so that I begin to bank this stuff, and so that I'm not always writing up to the minute that something is due, but that it's already in the tank. And you want to work with that system for 30 days and then see what the results are. Because that's what you want. You want to look at the real results that are being produced in your business. And then leave me a comment on this YouTube video with your results. I want to know how it worked out for you. All right, well, I'm only 6 minutes over. Questions. Andrea says, I think the love opens up the secrets of the gift. Yes, it does. When you fall in love with what you do, it opens up the secrets of your area of excellence. And Marvin says, the magnificent obsession. I've never heard that term before, Marvin, but I love it. The magnificent obsession. It says you become enthralled with mastering your craft. And I think that that's what is probably most attractive about someone like a Beyonce or a Serena or you name it. You know, but an artist whose work you just love, is that they fall in love with the discipline, with showing up, with practicing, with getting better. You know, there's something that comes out. I have a friend who's a saxophonist, very talented saxophonist, and he told me that the greats, they work on their scales every day. And you would think that they come in and play the more extraordinary pieces, and it's like, no. Let's master the fundamentals. They work on the fundamentals. What are the fundamentals in your area of expertise? What are the fundamentals? If you're a life coach, what are the fundamentals of that? Because that's where you want to master it. Oh no, Constance said she was unable to get in on the Hangout. Was with you on YouTube, but wanted to be able to say thanks. Thank you. So I had to come over to this medium. I'm actually doing a prosperity writing for the next 40 days. So kind of in line with the writing. Yes. Yeah. Andrea says, your lesson always seems divinely appointed just when I need them. This was so wonderful and right on time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. What do I have here? Okay. Any other questions? I hope this has demystified sacrifice. I hope it's made sacrifice attractive. Because the word, I put the definition of sacrifice up on the blog post, and I don't have it handy, otherwise I pull it up, and it says that every word from the Merriam-Webster in defining sacrifice is a loss, and it's like no wonder nobody wants to sacrifice, because we think of it in those terms. And then the way that it's been taught in traditional churches is like, well, is this sacrifice in terms of how you dress and stuff that ain't got nothing to do with nothing, right? But sacrifice, it's like where you've got a currency, your talent, where are you spending it? What are you putting it into? And are you putting it into anything? You may be really good at speaking, but are you speaking? And you don't need to go anywhere to speak. You can speak in your house. Mary Tompkin would talk about getting up and preaching in the mirror. You preach in the mirror. If you never hire me, I'm going to preach right here. I'm going to preach to the four walls. I'm going to tell a story to my shutters. So whatever your thing is, it's like fall in love with doing that. Marvin says Prince would go on vacation. Thank you for mentioning him. Yes, because good Lord, he's got some discipline. Prince would go on vacation and write songs on vacation. Someone else told me about Brian Tracy. Is a very disciplined person. When I was preparing my blog post, I've been asking for examples of discipline, and someone gave me the name Brian Tracy, and you guys know him. He's done a ton of stuff with Franklin Covey, and he works on efficiency. Andrea says obedience is better than sacrifice. Yeah, but the sacrifice. The thing is that you gotta invest the time. So whatever your gift is. It's like you got to put in that time, and you've got to make time for it. If you are a personal trainer, it's like what are you good at? Where's your magic? What separates you from everybody else? And you've got to study it. You've got to get a laser focus on it and put it under a microscope and make it reveal its secrets to you. We won't make our stuff reveal its secrets to us, and it's got secrets. It's got secrets. Constance says, great lesson. I had Val listening to you. Oh, hey, Val. And she went to sleep. She liked the sound of your voice, so you're in her subconscious. Thank you. Thank you. Sacrifice means sacred gift, right? I guess it does. I got to look up what that means metaphysically. But it is absolutely what you bring in exchange to the spirit for a blessing. you know. But the sacrifice is, it is, think is an investment. You know, that sacred gift that you bring, that is an investment to the Spirit for what you're asking for. Thank you so much for tonight. And I appreciate you guys. And this was, I love this lesson. These last few chapters have just, I mean, the whole book. Isn't this book amazing? This book was written in like 1950 something, 1960 something. This book is incredible. And I bought it, oh look, purchased at CUT June 6, 1998. So, Andrea said something. Thank you, Andrea. I'm so glad you said that, because I meant to touch that. She says, I think that sacrifice is closely related to order, and yes, it is, because order is heaven's first law, right? Everything in the universe is orderly. That it moves in an orderly fashion. And so when you want to get into alignment with peace, with the heaven in your heart, which is a state of consciousness, not a destination, it is about establishing that order. Go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, get your meals at the same time, do your Bible study at the same time. Is that there's an order, there's a rhythm to it. You know, when Jordan gets out of order and then he's just emotionally and all over the place, it generally can be traced back to me not having an order and having him in perfect order with his schedule. And you know, and so it just throws him off. But we thrive in that order. And that order is part of what unlocks our greatness. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Andrea, for bringing that up, because that is absolutely it. It is that order. JJ says, thank you. Got to work on discipline and order. Girl, me too. Me too. I do. This lesson is very much for me, because I can go to bed at any time and wake up at any time. And it's like, this is, you know better. Do what you teach. Don't just say it, be it. I do want to ask a question of you guys, and you can just reply to an email or let me know. I'm looking for the next series, so if you let me know what you need to work on, then I can choose the Bible series based on what you want to work on in your experience, and then that way I can make sure I give you, you know, the best of what you want. But have a beautiful night. Have a great week. We are on chapter 11 next week, which is the law of obedience. Yeah, chapter 11, and it starts on page 166, the law of obedience. All right. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm grateful for you. I'm so thankful for this platform, and I'm thankful that you show up every Thursday night. Have a beautiful night, beautiful week.